You are listening to
the SHREDcast.
No tendies, baby.
Yeah! It's the health code for snowboarders.
Let's send it.
Welcome back to the SHREDcast, everyone. I'm so stoked because today we have Ashley Battersby, which if you don't know, she's a skier, but we still love her. She's in the booth and she's absolutely killing the game. She's actually a pro skier who started skiing as a baby and then in 2002 attended the winter sports school out in Utah, started traveling the world and competing, and then eventually joined the US Freeski team and right when they were creating like a slope and pipe team, became one of the first girls in that and was an Olympic hopeful, and then went on to win Slopestyle in the US Open in 2008, continued to win the Aspen Open, placed in X-Games, the first stop a do tour. I mean, I could go on, but what's really sick is that she also got an exercise science degree and has her own yoga studio and personal training studio. And after kind of ending her pro career, is now going into all of this off-snow training and working with athletes. And it's just amazing. And what's super cool is a few days ago was actually recognized as Park City's best personal trainer and second best yoga teacher. So happy for you. That's amazing. How are you today? I'm so stoked to have you here.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here, and honored to be on a snowboard specific podcast. So thank you to all the snowboarder listeners for listening in. If you get this far, thanks for having me. I'm hyped. I'm super stoked. It is snowing. I can see right out here in Park City. It's snowing, which is great because it's been raining like the last couple days. So we're slowly starting to get some snow to shred.
That's awesome. Are any of your mountains open yet?
Park City is, and Woodward Park City is. I have yet to go up there though. They have very little. I feel like it's kind of a rookie move right now to go up there because it's like one run and you got to be super careful because bushes are still popping up and rocks and stuff like that. So I'm waiting until there's a little bit more snow.
Yeah, that's fair. Our mountain just opened up, but we haven't even gotten our first snow in town. So if that tells you anything about what our mountain's looking like right now, it was definitely like the tiniest little run I've ever seen. I was like, this is kind of a joke, but I mean, we went up there and we did it.
Well, I mean, it is definitely fun. I remember those days for sure. I never, like, I would be totally up there with my nephews, but they've had school and I don't know. I feel like I've been there, done that, like day one, like first chairlift, first tracks, and I'll wait. I'm a little bit older now, so like my body feels the creaks and pains, and I just need to like chill.
Yeah, I feel that. I went up there honestly for like 1 hour just to say I did it. I was like, this isn't really worth it, but we're gonna just go anyway.
Check it off for sure.
Literally. Well, I'm super stoked to bring you on. I have a million questions, but I really just kind of want to start from the beginning, like talking about where you're from. Obviously, you started snowing when you were started skiing when you were really little, but like, how did you get into that? Like, how did you move out to Park City and start on like your pro journey and stuff?
Yeah, so I guess it all starts like before me and my brothers were born. My parents were ski instructors at the Playboy Club in Wisconsin. It was 10 chairs going up, 10 chairs going down, called Grand Geneva and Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So that's where we were like brought up skiing, but they were both ski and snowboard instructors. They were like the head ones. My parents can both still ski and snowboard pretty killer shredders. Like they're just snow people, you know? But then my parents, before me and my brothers were born, they moved from Chicago, Michigan. That's where they're from. Moved out to Utah in 78, 79, and 80. And they were just big ski bums out here. And my dad got a ski instructor job at Park City. And my mom was a waitress and a ski instructor at the Pub and Grill at the top of Park City, at the top of Payday. So my parents were out here for a bunch of years, bought a condo like way back when it was crazy cheap. I think my parents are like kicking themselves for not buying all of Park City at the time, you know? But then, so they moved out here, they skied, and then they came back to Chicago, back to Michigan, had us kids. And since they had that little condo, we've been coming out to Park City every spring break, summer break, winter break. And my parents never like forced me and my brothers. I've got 3 brothers. They never forced us to ski, but my mom skied with 9 months pregnant with all of us kids. So like, yeah, she had us cooking in the oven. So like one 9 months pregnant, cooking in the oven, the other one like shredding on their own, when it was still legal, my dad skied with all of us in the backpack. I don't know if you can do that with kids anymore.
I
Like
have no
there's a
idea.
little, yeah, they made like a specific like kid backpack. So like my dad would be skiing with one of those, and we were never on the leash, but we had like, I don't even know if we had edgy wedgies. I'd have to ask my dad that, but we all skied, you know, in my dad's legs, in my mom's legs. And my dad actually told me a pretty funny story, which I always like to repeat. But me and all my brothers, when we first started taking our baby steps, he found the tiniest ski boots he could find, put us in the ski boots, and made us take our first steps in ski boots. Like they're
Oh
big,
my
right?
gosh.
But yeah, my dad was like die hard. Both my parents were. They were die hard skiers. So I mean, I think it just runs in the blood. And when you go on every vacation to ski, it was like one of those things where we just had to learn. And even though we grew up on these like 200-foot vertical hills in Wisconsin, we
Mhm.
got to come out to Park City twice, 3 times a year to come skiing. So we definitely knew what it was like to like burn the legs as little kids out
Yeah.
here in the real mountains, you know? And then finally my parents, when the Olympic year was in Salt Lake City, it was like voted in 2002 Olympic year here. My parents were like, let's just move to Park City for like a trial year. And none of us wanted to move. I was like 12, I think. And I think I was like, yeah, about 12. And my brother was about to like hit, maybe it was like freshman year of high school or whatever. So we're all like young. And those are like your molding years. Like you've got your best friends that you grew up with,
Mhm.
you know. And they moved us out for a trial year in 2001. So the year before the Olympics. And we just never moved back. We loved it so much. And that's when I started competing almost immediately because I just knew I wanted to, you know, I want, we were all, me and my brothers were all skiers, but I
Mhm.
guess like that's pretty funny to rewind that before we moved out here. I wanted to be like a racer originally. I wanted to be like the gate chasers, and there's nothing
Yep.
wrong. Like there's so many different disciplines. And I did the ski racing in Wisconsin, which is like very small. There was like 8, you know, little poles going down. I thought it was cool. Because we all used to do NASTAR back in Wisconsin. But I actually I actually remember when I was like 9 years old, my brother was like, you suck at racing, like you're never gonna be good. He's like, you gotta learn 360s. So like 9 or 10, I like that I cried that day. I was like, I suck, like I'm never gonna be a racer. And so because of my brothers, they like pushed me to, you know, ski slope
Yeah.
style. And I mean, at the time we didn't know what that was called because we used to like weld our own handrails back in Wisconsin. We used to like cut PVC pipes. Like
Mhm.
you weren't supposed to flip back in the day. Like it was illegal at our mountain, but we did. We built our own
Yeah.
little jumps, you know. And on the snowboard, I still have a snowboard from when I was younger. I don't know if they have this company anymore. It's called Vision. Have you heard of this?
I haven't. I don't.
Okay,
It
maybe
probably
I'm
doesn't
aging
exist.
myself. Maybe some of your listeners know that are my age or older. But I asked for a snowboard when I was 8 years old. And so I snowboarded and skied like back to back kind of when I was younger. And then I was a racer. I just did everything, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember when we moved out here to Utah, I like got pretty serious and focused like almost immediately because I went to my first competitions at the Canyons, which is now merged Park City, and did my first big air. And that's like when it just took off. But I can snowboard. My husband, in fact, used to be a professional snowboarder. So
Oh
he went
wow.
to the X Games for snowboarding too. He's almost like not before the internet, because he's only a couple years older than me, but like you can't even Google him. It's pretty funny. He's like,
Oh
I had
wow.
all these parts in all these different like movies. So he's like trying to actually go back into the archives and like find a bunch of it, but he never saved any of his like, you know,
Mm.
trophies or that type of stuff. But his like claim to fame was a cab 12, in like one of the first to do a cab 12 in the half pipe, which you'd never be able to find that.
Yeah, I know. Because people are doing like gymnastics at this point. People are like, oh, cab 12. To me, that's still insane though. I could never.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, totally. But it's funny because there's no record of it back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we used to have, I mean, I'm already getting off on a tangent. I could talk about skiing and snowboarding forever, but we used to have to wait. I remember to like now they have Instagram, but like can't find some of the stuff that like some of the best skiers, like maybe some of them have families now, but like back in magazines, we would have to wait to like get a shot, see the shot that
Yeah.
we would get a year later in a magazine. Like it's
Yeah.
not now, it's just like Instagram, you could like see it right away, this like get the
Hmm.
shot. But we used to have to wait. It's just crazy how things have changed so
Yeah.
much, you
And it
know?
used to be more like pictures. Like you would do things a million times to get like a super sick picture. And now you're like, okay, I need all the video parts I can get.
Yeah. 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 Well, anyway, but that's my like beginning story of like Chicago, born and raised, used to ski in Wisconsin, like it was every weekend. And then my dad did clinics on Tuesdays. So me and my brothers would ski with my parents every weekend and Tuesdays up in Wisconsin. And then
Mhm.
just the winter and summer breaks, we would come out to Park City, and then we moved here permanently. And that's when like things kind of blew up for at least my career at that point.
Yeah. So when you started competing when you were like about 12, like moved out to Park City, was it immediately into more freestyle stuff, or did you kind of start with racing and then get into more freestyle stuff?
Racing ended back in Wisconsin, like the
Okay.
moment my brother was like, "You suck, you gotta like learn how to do a 360." So I did. Like I cried, and then the next day I learned. Which I'm so grateful for my brothers. Honestly, I wouldn't have been able to, like, one girl out of three boys. They've they've done quite a lot of push for me to like get
Yeah.
up, do it again, and shred with the boys. And at the time
Mhm.
there were not any women that were doing it really. Like there were 5 women in the world that were doing slopestyle skiing. And like I said, you'd have to like look at them in movies and magazines and like see who's the upcoming person, because you would never really know who's doing it. But at
Mhm.
least in Park City, there was like zip. There was nobody doing it. And I remember every summer, me and all the guys. So once we moved here, me and all the guys would go to the skate park, and we were all bladers, it's very similar to skiing. And we would go to the skate park every day, and then winter shows up and we would be in the slope park up at Park City. I don't think they even had I Ride Park City at the time. I think that came years later, but um Park City always had the best park, and we were like so lucky to live moments away. Like our house was a
Yeah.
bus ride away from the resort.
Yeah,
So,
that's so sick. And especially like a resort like Park City. I've never been, but it's like on top of my list. I've never skied in Utah at
well,
all,
you're
which
always welcome to come
sucks.
hang out. Would
Oh,
love to
I will
have you.
definitely take you up on that.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. Yeah. I mean, things have changed so much, but at the time, Park City was welding, like they had a small little crew welding their own rails, but they always had such a sick park.
Mhm.
And then I think it was a couple years into it, they finally like, I mean, all the pros were coming here to, we just, Utah, the best snow on earth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And truly, I think we have some of the best, because I've skied all over the place, and Utah does have some really good snow. But Park City in particularly really did have a lot of good resources for people trying to get into slope and half pipe and all that stuff. They had the big 22, I think it was only 17 or 18-foot cutters at the time, and then they got the 22-foot,
Mhm.
and they were welding all of their own rails, but they had a big crew for that type of thing. And here in Park City, there was always so many good local like guys that I remember skiing with, and they always had opportunities to like do different contests here in Park City. So it was definitely the place to move from Chicago and like immerse ourselves in, because it just, everybody wanted to be here. And I
Yeah.
think because it was so accessible too, like from Park City to Salt Lake, the airport is like 25 minutes away, so it's so
Mhm.
easy to travel and get here. So
Yeah.
there was always pros, even if they were from California or Colorado, they were always coming to Park City.
Yeah.
So you
And
were
I
just exposed to it.
Yeah, true. And I feel like Utah, I mean, granted, Utah is still kind of small, but I feel like right now it's starting to really ramp up, and a lot of people are moving to Utah for skiing and snowboarding. But I feel
Yeah.
like back then, like it was so small town, especially if you lived like in the mountains, like you were just there to ski and snowboard, and like that was kind of it. And then everyone else lived down in like Salt Lake City, and I feel like it was really just like everyone there was there for
Mhm.
skiing and snowboarding, and there was not really anything else going on.
It's so true. Yeah, there'd be no reason for you to be in Park City unless you love to ski. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I've met a lot of people in Utah that have never skied before, But up in City specifically, like you're there. I mean, it's a resort town, and then
Yeah.
things would boom during Christmas and the holidays, but like, yeah, but man, it's so funny. My parents have like photos of this place when it was like a 1 or 2 lane highway going from Salt Lake to Park City. So small, nothing,
Yep.
nothing in Park City. So it's just wild how much it's grown.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned that you started going to like the winter sports school, and so
Mhm.
I don't have a ton of knowledge on this, but is it kind of like one of those schools in Colorado where like you have designated days that you're skiing with everyone that you're going to school with, and they're like you have trainers there to help you improve and all those kinds of things?
Ah, I'd love to say yes, but at the time when I first started, I mean, like when you were like, did you move out and you went straight into slope? So like to kind of go back to that real quick, like when I first started, it was me and a bunch of dudes, right? And then they finally had this school that showed up that was called the Winter Sports School. Now, it's very different now, but when I was going to school, they were trailers. They were literally like just storage container trailers, but they made us call them learning modules. So it sounded like
It sounded
more
nice.
high end. Yeah, but it wasn't. But then the cool thing about that is it was right up at the Utah Olympic Sports Park. So it's like where the bobsledding was. It's because they made all of these facilities almost specifically for the Olympics when they came here in 2002. So they made like a museum up at the Utah Olympic Sports Park. They have the water ramps, which I'm sure some of you guys have seen. It's the plastic ramps that you go off and like do the flips and spins into the
Yeah.
pool. So that's where I got to train, and that's where our school was. So it was like in these learning modules up where the trampolines were, the sports park was. So we got to be up there, but there was no team for slopestyle or half pipe at that time. Like
Okay.
snowboarding was a little bit more advanced. Like, in 2002, they did have snowboarding in the Olympics, but they didn't have skiing. They didn't like like that was not even a thing. We were just like we were some of the first kids like trying to push that in Park City. But the kids that I went to school with were mostly moguls and aerials and some snowboarders, and yeah, just racers and that type of thing. So it was mostly skiers. And yeah, and then there were like 4 of us that did, me and 3 other guys that did slope.
Mhm.
Um, and there were no trainers, there were no coaches. Like my brothers were my coaches for years. Like even in my pro career, like we
Mhm.
didn't have any coaches at the time. Like there was no. Now the Olympics are so big, and like, at the time it was just more like your homies are your coaches, like
Mhm.
the people around you. And so you always wanted to ski with people that were better than you,
Mhm.
which were all the guys at the time. I mean, there were very little women in the sport, and I could definitely say women's sport has grown so much, but at the time it
Yeah.
was like, the guys were doing 720s and I was barely doing 360s. Like it was
Mhm.
smaller at the time, and there was only so much going on. But yet the sports school was like it was very expensive to go to these trailers.
Yeah.
But also just like more so I had 20 kids in my graduating class. We were apparently like the biggest one at the sports school at the time, and I graduated in 2005. So yeah,
Yeah.
22 kids in my graduating class. So it was small potatoes.
Yeah.
But it was cool because on our like lunch break at school, we got to like run over to the trampolines, do some flips, and then run back for class. So it
Yeah.
was cool, but it wasn't like there was no structure to it at the time. There
Mhm.
was nobody telling you, nice three, catch your grab here. Like nobody was, we were just like free for all at the
Yeah.
time.
Which almost seems like it would make it more fun and more inviting to like kind of pursue competitions and go and like try and go pro and stuff like that. While like it's not going to be anything like the competition is today because you need coaches and you need like all these crazy things to get there. I feel like back
Uh-huh.
then, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel
Yeah.
like it would be almost more fun to not have the pressure and be like, I just get to go ride with all my friends and my brothers and all this kind of stuff and just like
Yeah.
try shit and try to
Yeah.
make it into the comps and like do all that kind of stuff.
You're 1,000% correct. That's exactly what it was. But like we didn't even know that, like, like we were starting to get some of me and my friends like starting to get paid at that time through
Yeah.
sponsors. And like it wasn't even a thing. Like it wasn't even like a stressful thing, or like, we just got to do it for fun because we were like immersed in it at such an early stage of the sport being,
like
it wasn't
big.
even blowing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely fun times for sure. And that's what I wish we had dad cams, you know what I mean? Like my dad gave us his old camera we didn't even have phones that had like video on it at the time. I
Yeah.
had one of those like walkie-talkie chirp phones. Like, man, it would have been so cool to have like all of that footage from just the fun times, like behind the scenes of like how we trained, because it was, I mean, the shit that they have nowadays, now that the winter sports school, it's like a big thing. There must be like 80 kids. I was just looking at it because they all graduated the winter sports school. They all graduated. I think it was 2 days ago. So on Friday. So on opening day at Park City, they all had their caps on, and I was like watching it on social media at Park City. And it was like the winter sports school just graduated. And so they're skiing down, whatever. And they all look like I mean, there's all snowboarders, there's all slope, there's like so many different categories now.
Mhm.
But the school that they're in is a massive house. Like it's
Yeah.
huge. It's a big house, and they got rid of the trailers and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
so many different disciplines, a lot more women, which is so cool to see, like more
Mhm.
females. But as far as like the schooling goes, because you did ask like what are the times that you go, usually it's April to November, so you go
Oh.
all spring, summer to ski all winter. So instead of getting 3 months off for summer, you get 5 months off for winter, which is like, I mean, if you're a shredder, like how could you
That's
not,
so sick.
And I think now though, I think it's like a lottery. So I think you have to like live in Park City. And if you don't, and you want to go to the sports school here in Park City, which is pretty like a rad place to be, because now I think they get access to the ski team and snowboard team. So the Center of Excellence is what it's called, that ski team building. I believe they get access to that. It's a lottery. So like if you want to get in, they only have so many spots for so many kids. So if you're like on the A or B or D team, I don't even know what it is for Alpine and that type of thing, but you like almost get an automatic spot. And now they even have some housing for kids for the sports school. Like they never had any of that stuff for us, things have changed so much, and as they should, and but and I'm stoked for those kids. We just like we roughed it, you know what I mean? I feel like it was so much different, and like the things that they have now in sport, which it should be better as far as like the facilities go, but we didn't have any of the shit that these kids have nowadays. But I'm glad that they have access to it, because the sport now is fucking crazy. Like I just can't believe how fast the sport has grown, and snowboard and skiing. And I'm quite honestly happy that I don't have to do it as a profession anymore, because it's so scary.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to talk on that. I literally have a question written that was like, I wasn't going to phrase it like this, but might as well. Like, how did you actually get the balls to like do the tricks that you're doing? Because like to me, I just couldn't. And granted, I only started snowboarding like 6 years ago, and so
Yeah,
I
you're
started
brand
when I
new.
kind of and
Yeah.
I started after having fear, so I never got to like try stuff when I wasn't afraid to break myself, which I feel like is
Yeah.
a giant limiting factor. But even still, I know a lot of people, mostly men, that started around the same time I did, and then they progress immensely, and I'm just like holding myself back. So from a female brain perspective, like
Yeah.
kind of how did you get into doing like crazy freestyle stuff? Because it's just absolutely terrifying to me.
Dude, it's terrifying to me too. um yeah, man, it's hard to say, because I remember when I did my first flip, it was like the day, and like flips are whatever anymore, but like it was a big deal back then, we called it the Lincoln Loop. I don't know, does snowboarding have that, a Lincoln Loop, do you know?
I haven't heard of it, but
Okay, anyway, it's maybe just a ski thing, but I remember my brother on like the biggest pow day, like we built like a jump, whatever, and I was late to that like session that day. And my brother, like, I roll up and he's like, I just did a Lincoln Loop, and he's younger than me. I was like, fuck. So I get up there, he does one, and I did it again, and I landed it first try. And he was all bummed because he was like, it took him a bunch of tries, but it was like, how did I get the balls to do it? I didn't. Like, I was skiing with men all the time,
Yeah.
and just my brothers and like all of their friends, and you had to learn it in powder. Like we had the water ramps later on, but like at the time we were so young, and we were just like literally hucking our bodies. And you don't have fear when you're that young. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you're in your teens, like there is no fear of getting hurt.
Yeah.
And then, as the years went on, of like having to kind of up my progression, and like I'm starting to ski with these women, and like there's more coming up, right? Like, and just trying to follow the boys. You always started in POW first, like it just like guinea pig, who's first, like not me, not me,
Yeah.
And just following the guys, and then just having to try it. Like you didn't really have a choice. It was either you do it
Yeah.
or you don't. And I remember like my brother, when I was really young, he was like, you either do it, or like if you don't and you half-ass it, you're going to get hurt. And
Yeah.
every time throughout my career that I've blown a knee or broken my wrist or like whatever, like every time I've eaten shit, it wasn't because I tried something new. That usually when trying a new trick, it's not always like, oh, you're going to try a new trick and get hurt. Like that's usually when you're scared, right? You're standing. I saw your meme the other day. It was like, yeah, you're like waiting to like, I'm going to try a new trick. I'm going to drop in, like it just had me laughing. Cause I was like, yeah, like, and then you've got this like, oh, I don't know if I can do it.
Yep.
But once you commit to it, even if you eat shit, most likely you're not going to get hurt. Like you'll probably land in a way where you're like, oh, okay, like I could get back up and do it again. But like it's when like you half-ass internally, like your confidence, like every single time I've fallen, I can tell you like I was not 110%. I was like 98. And if you're not fully there, you're gonna eat shit. And I've eaten shit plenty of times. So I can definitely speak to like it's 90. I mean, we as trainers and coaches, and we do this for a living now, teaching people strength and mobility and stability, all the things.
Yeah.
Right, but like it's not always just like whether you're strong or not. Like you have to be mentally and visually there.
Yep.
You can have all of the things, and you just tweak it the wrong way. And unfortunately with our sport, you posted something. It was like, you can't prevent, I can't remember how you said it, but you were like, you can't prevent, you said something, prevent injury, but you can reduce it by, I don't know. I can't remember what you
Honestly,
said.
I don't remember. Probably something along the lines, because I like to teach people like the only way you're going to get better at snowboarding is by actually snowboarding.
Snowboarding.
So it's like you're never going to prevent, like you can't actually prevent injury. Like it's
Mhm.
just point blank, you can't, because you never are like, I'm going to get injured. Let me go get injured now. Like you're never trying to get injured. So it's like you can't actually prevent it, but you can do things to help mitigate your risk of injury. Like if you have strong
1,000.
bones and strong foundation, chance of you breaking your bones is like a little bit less, right? But
For
like
sure.
you said, if you're committing to something, every time that I've been like in the exact same thing that you said, every time that I've been like, I don't know, this is kind of sketch, and I try it anyways. Like I broke my collarbone doing that. I literally was 50ing a tower tube, the simplest trick in the book, but it was my first run, hadn't warmed up, was like standing at the top of the park, like I shouldn't hit this, but we're gonna go anyways, and then just caught right in the front of it. I was like, why did I do that?
Dude, I have the same story, like same story. It was actually my first X Games, and there are video, like I side by side video myself to like watch. Like I'm constantly, back in the day, I was like constantly like visualizing my runs and my tricks and stuff like that. But at my first X Games, I was nervous as hell, and I was at the top of the course, flat rail. Like it was like my height, so I'm like 5 foot, so it was tall enough, but like it was just a flat rail. And I was so scared, and you could see me at the top of the run just like like I didn't know how to like control my breathing, and I was so stressed out. And in my head I'm like, you're gonna eat shit on this fucking rail, like you're gonna eat shit on this flat rail first run. And I did, and it was, I ate shit first run, like it was everything I had visualized, and I like almost manifested it in itself.
Yep.
And it's crazy because that's it kind of brings me on a different tangent, but that X Games, it being my first, I rewatched that video, just that section over and over and over. And I'm like, what went wrong? Why were you so like I couldn't catch my breath? And I was like, you got to start yoga. Like it immediately. And I didn't start yoga for like the stretch or like the physical aspect of yoga, like the
Yeah.
poses or the asanas, whatever. I started yoga specifically for breath work because I was like, what? Like, I just kept watching it. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? You know?
Yeah.
And you could see my breath and like it wasn't even that cold of a day. Like I was just so stressed.
Yeah.
And from there, I practiced breath work specifically for the next year. And I compared the two side by side. And um, it was crazy to see the difference of like how much more mellow I was, even with like goggles on, right? Like you can't tell what like if somebody is like behind goggles, but
Yeah.
you could see it in just my body language. And it's crazy because I wish that's where coaches and like having a team would have come in at that time. But
Yeah.
like we were just like learning all of this stuff. Like I had to learn all of this shit myself. Like, why wasn't I doing that right? Or like what went wrong there? Like we would have to watch our be our own coaches for a really, really long time. But that goes back to your question, like how did you have the balls? You just fucking had to do it. Like there were no, and I knew I wanted to do this for a living. And
Yeah.
so like how else were you going to get better? You just had to do it.
Yeah. No, I feel that. And I guess kind of touching on all of that, like the breath work. I don't practice yoga regularly because
Yeah.
I gain more value in my, I guess that's not a great way of phrasing it. Like for me, what works best for my body in a physical sense is more
Yeah.
of like full range of motion training, like gaining strength through range of motion, which like yoga does too to an extent.
Yeah.
But the part of yoga that I do really want to try to invest more time in and get into is like the breath work and the mental aspect and meditation and all those kinds of things that I suck at. But that being said, I do find that whether I'm talking to someone that does yoga or just like someone that is really good at snowboarding or just someone that is like more chill, they always talk about like visualization techniques and like breath
Mm-hmm.
work and stuff like that. And it's so important, I think, in trying to mitigate fear, which is kind of a bad way of saying it. Like a lot of people come to me and they're like, how do you get over fear? Like, I want to progress, but I'm terrified. And I'm like, you'll never get over the fear. Like, the fear will always be there, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, honestly. But if you're using techniques like breath work or visualization, like I see a lot of people that, like, I was watching Do Tour, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was just watching like these like snowboarders at the top just being like they're literally just like sitting there like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And so like I tell the same thing to people, like even if it's like carving down a black diamond for the first time, you
Yeah.
have to kind of plan it out and kind of be like, put the fear aside and be like, is my body capable of this? Yes. And can I calm myself down enough to like not black out and actually commit to what
Yeah.
I'm trying to do? And I feel like
Yeah.
that's so huge. And then on the physical aspect of it, I think for me personally, because I did learn after fear and because like I really want to progress, like I don't have aspirations to go pro. I'm never gonna go pro, but I do want to like constantly get better. I'm just the type of person, anything that I do, like what I'm doing is never good enough. Like I always want to get better, which is also, I don't know, kind of a mental issue that I have.
No, you got that
But
athlete mentality, dude. That's like all athletes. They're just like, I'm like, that wasn't enough. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And so for me, it was like, okay, if I'm like breaking myself or I'm terrified and I'm just not committing to anything and I can never actually progress, I'm never like gaining the skill down. I was like, what is my body physically capable of doing? And even
Yeah.
though like the way that you train isn't going to necessarily make you better at snowboarding, I like to think that it almost can, from like a mental standpoint of like, I know my body's strong enough to do this. I know if I eat shit, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to break anything. And I feel like that right there makes you a better snowboarder because it helps get you out of your head so you can actually try new things.
Dude, 1,000%. Yeah, you're right on track. You know what's up, girl. Yep, no, it's real though. I mean, I think for me too, like, yeah, the breath work was super important. And kind of like you were saying, I didn't really realize this with yoga. Like, I got into it for the mental aspect and the breathing for sure. Because it was the only place I could really like tune back in, because I was constantly going and moving and like focusing on training. And when I say training, at that time, there was no like, I was like riding the bike and like doing the leg press. Like I didn't know anything about like strength training. I had no
Yeah.
clue. I knew you had to go to the gym to like, and by the way, this is so funny. My first trainer, he was a big snowboarder at one of the main gyms here in Park City. And he's only a couple years older than me, but he came like a brother to me. And I remember going to him and I was like, dude, it was after I blew my first knee and there was no US ski team. There was nothing. And I went to some therapists and stuff like that. But I'm like, dude, I need to get stronger, because I was literally rollerblader. I've always skied, but like
Yeah.
rollerblader cheerleader going straight into like pro skiing. Like, what
Yeah.
am I doing? And when I blew my first ACL, I was like, I need a trainer. Will you train me? He's like, yeah, it's $50 an hour a session. And I was making jack shit. Like, I was just like, I was a young like teen. I didn't have a job, and I was like, I wasn't really willing to get one. And my parents were like, you got to figure out how to pay for it. I was like, what can I do to like get this dude to like train me? And he was like, I'll take $50 a week, and then I'll just take free, because I got ski at the time. Ski companies they were big, but I also was like sponsored by some snowboard companies. So Red, it was like a helmet company, and Anon. I don't know if they still have Anon
Yeah.
optics or Anon. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I was sponsored by some snowboard companies as well. So I was getting free snowboard shit and just like passing it over to him. And he was training me 5 days a week for $50 in free gear. So like he
Dang.
was my first training, strength trainer. And he came to like actually I think he was there when I won Dew Tour. I don't know what year that was, but he was there like up at the top of the course with me, because he was like my coach, but like we
Yeah.
didn't really have real coaches. So
Hmm.
like, yeah, I guess like you'll be up there, like just, you know, telling me I've got it, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is funny because the yoga thing, I've totally like on like that conversation of you saying like in your own body, you're better with stability and strength. And so am I. Like when I first made the US ski team, they were like, my strength trainer was like, you have so much flexibility naturally. And it wasn't from all the yoga, because I went to a lot of more breath work classes. He was like, it's just like you're just naturally can touch your nose to your toes. Like he's like, we don't need any more flexibility in your body. We need more
Yeah.
strength training. And so
Yeah.
it took a little while for me to like kind of figure that out. And I do love yoga, and I think some people can benefit from it, but in my own specific body, especially like after sport, like my body is, I almost like, and I hate to say regret it, because I don't regret doing any of my like yoga training and that type of stuff. I love to teach it, and I think it's very beneficial for some, but for me specifically, the more stretch I do, the worse my body feels. So like I like to think, because yoga is like, there's so many, it's in a big umbrella. There's so many different modalities of yoga. And my personal favorite is the breathing and the meditation. And just like you said, like stuff that like is really hard. You don't suck at it.
Yeah.
People usually say that but it's just like, maybe we don't make the time for things that like slow us down, because we're
Yeah.
goers, we're doers, like,
Yeah.
and it's hard to create that quiet space
Hmm.
because you want to get shit done. Like I get
Yeah.
that, I'm a
I'm a
grinder.
very like anxious perfectionist. And so
Mm-hmm.
like my brain is just always going. There's no like I can't shut it off. I've tried to meditate and I just like I'm the type of person that like can't read a book either because I'm thinking about 10 million things. Like I
Yeah.
can't focus on what I'm doing. Like
Yeah.
probably slightly ADHD in there, who knows?
So,
But
but you can think of like yoga as anything you want as far as like the visualization. That's something I wish I learned as an athlete from day one. And I didn't really know about it until like halfway through my career. But the visualization aspect, like the whole like sport, and we didn't have a sports psych till I got on the ski team and all that, but all of that like journaling and visualizing your run over and over. I can't tell you like how much that helped once I found that tool. how much that helped me with like really trying new tricks and like really gaining the confidence to like go get it on snow and like do some crazy ass shit. It
Yeah.
was all visualization, and
Yep.
you had to, that's what helped like the confidence. But I didn't know what that was when I first started. I didn't know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
visualization was.
And it's really just kind of a learning curve. Like I
Mhm.
I say I'm visualizing stuff, but I mean I know I could always improve on it. There's always you have to kind of find what works for you. Like some
Mhm.
people are good not doing anything like that, and if they start thinking about it too much, then that screws them over. And other people like really need to think about every little turn. So I
Mhm.
think it just depends on the person specifically. But I do kind of want to get back to when we were talking about like your flexibility and your strength training and all those kinds of things. Obviously, since that's like what we both do now more so than anything, I want to kind of teach people and also just explain to the people listening and watching like the benefit of this and what you started to gain when you started implementing that. Like how did it help your skiing? How did it help just your life in general?
Yeah. Well, when I first started like strength training at all, like I said, it was with that one guy that really helped me out. But um after him, then the ski team finally they ended up putting slope and pipe in the it was going towards the Olympics and that era. And as far as it helping my skiing, it's hard to say because I've had so many injuries. Like uh, probably have to look them all up on my website. Like I know I wrote them somewhere at some point, but like I know I had 7 knee surgeries before I was 27. I had 5 hand surgeries on this, one on this. Apparently I broke my nose 3 times, didn't know it. And I had a deviated septum. And I learned that from like doing yoga breathing. I finally figured it out.
You're
I
like, I
went to the
can't
doctor.
breathe.
I was like, I can't breathe out of one side of my nose. The doctor's like, how many times have you broken your nose? I'm like, I've never broken my nose. He's like, no, there's some shit going on up there. Like you definitely but as far as it like from the very beginning, going from like a floppy little teen body to like, okay, I'm serious about this. I mean, I'm 5'2", 125 pounds, and um it was just hard. I was like one of the smallest girls on the team, at least on the US ski team, and height and just like teeny. So like, how are you supposed to grow? I remember like working with the best nutritionists and the best strength coaches and sports psychs. It was really, really hard for me to gain muscle and eat enough and like try to like build my like you've
Yeah.
got this skeletal structure, you know what I mean? You can only
Yeah.
build so much muscle. And um I don't want to say they overtrained us because I think a lot of what we did at the ski team was incredibly beneficial. But we were there for hours a day. Like I would go there for an hour warm up and then an hour training and then an hour physical therapy session and then, yeah, recovery. And it was a lot, but like we were brand new to this sport. So like us slope and pipe skiers were getting and snowboarders were getting the same training as some of the moguls and some of the aerials. Like they kind of just like merged these already disciplines and like made us a program. And then as like more research started coming out and we started getting more trainers, like we only had what we had at the time,
Yeah.
so they gave us all of this. I wouldn't say I was like definitely overtraining because I was learning a lot, and it wasn't like constant pushing. Like an hour warm up wasn't like you're on the bike getting it for an hour. It was like you kind of like foam roll and you kind of like,
Yeah.
bike a little bit and then you watch some TV and then you go get a snack. And um I would say like the very beginning of our specific training was like not quite dialed in yet. We were almost
Yeah.
like guinea pigs. But I guess as time went on, they started getting it more dialed in. And like maybe I would say by the end of my career is when they really got it dialed in. But like we were so fortunate to have what we had. I remember doing box jumps and like being new to that type of thing and plyos and agility. And I remember that I did a box jump, hit like I think it was a 24-inch hit my shins and I like ran over. Like I was bawling. I was like, oh my God, like I think I need stitches.
Yep.
It was bad. It bruised up real bad. Went over. It was so nice to train there because I went over to the physical therapy room and they like iced me up, rubbed me
Yeah.
out, like cupped me up, you know, dry needled. So it was like pretty cool to have that. But you know, I could definitely tell a difference from like being this like, you know, floppy little teen or teenager and then getting older and like really realizing how important it was to train specific muscle groups. And but we still didn't have a lot, like I said, of like the stuff I am now learning now
Yeah.
with like mobility. Like they put all these things together, but it didn't feel as structured because it was so brand new. Like
Yeah.
our sport didn't have any research behind it. Like we were the pioneers. We were the first ones. So we kind of just went through. And then when we had injuries, you know, and I wouldn't say like I overtrained to get injuries, like my whole family in between. So I've got the 3 brothers, me, my mom and my dad. So there's 6 of us in my family. In 17 years, my entire family had 16 ACL surgeries. So like, I don't know if it's genetic. Like my doctor said it's not. It's just like, he's like, you're the Battersbys. You guys go hard. I'm like, or like, we just like have shitty, I don't know what, like something's not holding up. Make it tighter.
Yeah.
But like, you know, injuries are bound to happen. And I think just like we talked about before, the best thing to do, like you see it a lot on Instagram, like this is going to make your back stronger. This is going to, you know,
don't even get me started.
whether it's our sports specifically or whether it's, and I get like the whole like bulletproof for your knees and that type of stuff, but it's also like the best way to be a better skier is skiing. And I feel like with strength training, just like you mentioned, like the best way to snowboard is snowboarding. But that's more like the confidence too, right? Like that's more of like the trick aspect. And it's so important because when I first started, there were so many kids, and I'm not going to name names, but they were at the highest level and they didn't do shit for skiing and snowboarding. They were never in the gym. They just skied and snowboard. And you could ask them the same thing and they'll say, yeah, I made it to the highest level without any of that. But like, I always wonder how their body feels now. So like,
Exactly.
I feel like, I mean, my shit hurts, but like my knees don't hurt like 5 ACLs would hurt somebody. Like I've had a lot of knee injuries and I can sit on my heels. My knees can jump. Like I can do all the things. And like my body gets achy, but like, I mean, God, I was hitting 80-foot jumps like forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's going to happen. I don't know if our bodies are really meant to do that. So it's so important because maybe at the time as an athlete, like these little kids don't want to get in the gym. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to train. And I'm like, maybe you could get through your whole career without it. But like, how are you going to feel later on? And it didn't hit me until later in my career that like, damn, like a couple knees in where I was like, I want to walk when I'm 40 and 50 and 60. And like, I still want to ski when I'm that age, but I've worked with young athletes. So when I retired, I worked private coaching a kid for a couple years and a bunch of like local kids here in Park City. And none of them want to do the work. Like they just want to go shred. And I get that. It's how you get better. That's how you get on that pro circuit. But like, dude, your body's going to hurt. And it would be, like you said, probably most likely make you physically stronger and feel physically like better to try those tricks.
Yeah. Well, that, and I think the thing is with like you being a pro and like skiing with a billion other pros and like always having contact with these people that are just really naturally good at skiing and snowboarding. Like you have in any sport, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're going to make it to a high level, there's natural talent there. Like there just is. And so a lot of these people can use their natural talent and make it to the top, and their body just naturally does these things. They start before they have fear, and like it's all good. But like you said, at a certain point, their body will give up because regardless of natural talent, we all have the same physiology, the same human body. And things just start to decline and your muscles start to give up if you're not actually like strength training them. And the thing is like you'll build up your muscles specific for snowboarding, specific for skiing, right? So when you're on the hill, your muscles are used to that repetitive motion, they're strong for that. But then like what if you go running or biking with someone or like anything else and your body's not actually used to any of that activity? So now you could get injured doing something else because you're not like making your body like athletic and ready for all the things that you want to do. And I think for the average skier, the average snowboarder, they don't have aspirations to go hit 80-foot jumps. I know I don't. So I'm like, if my goal is just to be able to snowboard until I'm super old, like I need to be putting in the athletic training just for that overall goal and to just be like an active person. I think in a general sense, most people in this sport are hikers, are mountain bikers, are whatever, everything outdoorsy, right? And so
Yeah.
all those things just come together. And I think taking care of your body, whether it's through yoga or strength training or what I do, which is kind of a combination of everything, honestly, because
Yeah, you
like you
do.
said earlier, I think what the training used to be when it was all brand new, people kind of took it from different perspectives, and more times than not, like training for sports was more from like a bodybuilder perspective. Like if someone said strength training, it was a lot more like not like hypertrophy, squats, deadlifts, things like that, which are all great and definitely things that should be included. But I think they're also missing the mark on a lot of things when it comes to like ACL tears. Like, okay, if your knees are really strong in a squat and really strong in a lunge, what about that like small rotation that your knees are supposed to have? Do you have any control over that? Because if you don't, then yeah, you're extremely more susceptible to an ACL tear. So
Yeah.
like including isometrics to help build that tendon strength. And like I preach rotation with people all the time because
Yeah.
it's when you go into the gym, when you go do any like normal training session, 99% of the time you're not including any rotational aspect at all.
Yeah.
And when we're skiing and snowboarding, like there's always some aspect of rotation, whether you're doing freestyle or not. Like your whole
Yeah.
body's just moving like that. So if you don't have control and strength in those areas, then yeah, you're going to be more susceptible to injury. So I just think it's super important, whether you hate it or not. Like I get it. Some people hate the gym, and like that's fine. I'm not going to force you to go to the gym.
I used to hate it too, but like I know how important it was for me. Like I always felt stronger. And I don't know if I could like truly honestly say, because it's been a long time and concussion brain, I don't know. But like I truly felt more confident, like stronger mentally, knowing that like I have done every fucking thing I could up to that point. Like I ate, slept, drank, skiing, like everything was so laser focused. And the ski team, I mean, don't get me wrong, they were incredible. They just did with what they had. And we had an incredible facility. Like we had trampolines in that facility. We had the roller ramps, like foam pit stuff. But training nowadays, like you said, like doing a lunge with a rotation, like that was like very minimum. We didn't have as much. We did have mobility and some stretching, but it was, we just didn't have that. I mean, there wasn't that same type of training that there is now when we first started, because like I said, we were the guinea pigs, and so we got the best that we could with what we had, and we had incredible trainers. And I think, but everybody's different, right? Like there were some guys on the team that never stepped foot in the gym, were constantly winning podiums. Some of these guys were even blowing ACLs and strong enough without ever stepping foot in the gym to even land, like I don't condone this, but to like hit big jumps, land tricks, no ACL. But like, there's no fucking way I could have gone out and done that, because like mentally I would have been like, whoa, So like I worked with the sports psych all the time. I worked with every single person in there to like make sure I was at my best. Luckily, like I lived a car ride away from the Center of Excellence, which was so cool that they have that. And I was able to like utilize that, but we were just guinea pigs, they just didn't really have like that same type of training for us. But we trained hard when we were there. Like I still talk to my strength coach. Like he still writes me programs. It's really cool. He's like moved on. He's doing rowing in Ohio, but it's cool. Cause like, it has progressed the training for the kids nowadays. And it, like we said, it should be better. The facility should be better. Because they're doing, I mean, did you just see the snowboarder? What was it? a 21. What's
Oh, it was the
seconds?
21 20 21? I don't know,
Dude,
something like
yes,
that.
I just saw this last night.
Yeah. Hell
It's
no. You're like, you
no,
just look like a spinning top at that point. Like, no one can
dude,
even tell what you're doing.
but it's crazy. I'm like the jumps. I mean, it like, to be honest, my mom was praying for me to get out of sport because she was like, I just am so sad to see you hurt all the time. And like, it was more like my head than my legs. Like, my body's fine. Like, I've done the work, I've put in the work. I continue to do it every day too. That's the other thing. Like, it's lucky that I got into like what I'm into now, because it's like a lifestyle for me to move my body. But if I don't know what people are doing now. Like, I don't know how some of my friends feel that aren't constantly moving, because
Yeah.
God, yeah, I just always think about, like, are we all gonna be in like an old home with like, like in wheelchairs, because like none of us like really worked on our bodies because we just didn't have it, and
Yeah.
we
I
had to put
think
in that work.
I think it also comes down to like, regardless of skiers and snowboarders, just people in my daily life that I meet,
Hmm.
it's almost normalized now to just be like, I'm getting old, like my body hurts. Oh well, there's nothing to do. I'm like, and it makes me so mad. Like, even my boyfriend will be like, "Oh, did you hear my hip hop? Like, that's just genetic." I was like, "No, like stop it. You can do things about this." Like, it just bothers me that people are like, "I
Uh-huh.
can't snowboard anymore, I'm too old." Like, I was on the hill the other day and someone was like standing back up. I was like, "Oh, I'm getting too old for this." Literally was in college. I was like, "Bro, you need to get it together."
But that's the thing. People put themselves, I'm with you on that. People put themselves in a box where they're like, I can't do this anymore. And I actually have that same story for myself, because I used to be a track runner in high school before all the skiing and stuff, before we no, was it high school, middle school? I was track runner and I loved running. I loved it. When I moved here and I blew my first knee, my doctor was like, pick one, skiing or running. And I was like, damn. Like, so I got rid of running, obviously. And I remember just years ago, I've told myself my whole ski career, like, well, you can't run, because my doctor told me you can't run. So I was like, no fucking running. So I put myself in this box where I did not, and I get it, like they go to medical school, like trust is advice, right? But like
Uh,
also, I know, but hold up. Also, like, I didn't really know what it was like to like listen to my own body. I just like
yeah,
trusted the people around me, which
yeah,
I think is fine. And like, you're doing a thing. So like, you trust these people and they know, like, we only know what we know until you know more, right? Like, you've probably heard yourself, I've heard myself like say things to like clients where I'm like, damn, I said that 3 years ago, like fully not the case anymore, right? So
yeah,
like shit changes. But I didn't run for years and years and years, up until like when I retired 6 years ago. I was like, I'm going to sprint on this friggin' treadmill. And I ran for 3 minutes as fast as I could. Knees felt fine, back felt fine. But I was like, why have I stopped this? And that's why I think people get old, because they're like, I'm too old for this shit, because they stop moving, right?
yeah,
Like,
yep,
no.
yeah. Because I love to tell people, if anyone's telling you you can't do something, unless
Mhm,
it's like a crazy injury, like obviously there's exceptions to everything,
mhm,
but if someone's telling you you can't do something, get a second opinion always.
mhm.
Like, I just love to preach by that. I don't care who the second opinion is from, get a third, fourth. If everyone's telling you you can't do this anymore, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think that more times than not, there's solutions to things. And if you really have the drive to do something, especially like skiing is high impact. The
Yeah.
doctor's kind of dumb to be like, you can ski, but you can't run. I guarantee your knees were taking a way larger hit skiing than they were running. But like, I get it. It's so often that people say like, oh, you're injured, pick a new sport. And
Yeah.
I hate that. It really irks me.
Totally. Well, and we've had so many friends that have had like damn near life altering
Yeah.
like injuries from
Yeah.
type of stuff. So like one of my friends, I don't know, I've been told by the doctors plenty of times. I've had like second impact concussions where a doctor told me, I came back, I couldn't, I mean, it's a scary story. I don't even like talking about it, but I was in Japan, hit my head twice, barely made it home, threw up like 4 times on the way home. Moment I got home, I fell asleep. I was like wheelchair bound. I had tremors. I couldn't move. It was fucking wild. But those second impacts, you see that with football players all the time. went to neurologist, went to the doctor, everybody, spinal tap, got all these tests done. They were like, well, you might not be able to, I'm literally wheelchair bound. And they're like, you might not be able to walk again. Definitely won't be able to ski again. And I slept for almost 2 months, and like my mom was coming, like it was crazy. They didn't know what was going on with me. It was all neurological. And my acupuncturist at the time, he was coming to my mom's house every day to like do acupuncture on me because I couldn't get out of bed. And 6 weeks later, one day I just stood up. Like, I don't know. I think people have even heard that, like, you'll never be able to walk again. You'll never be able to do these things again. And like, I guess I don't believe it, but like at the time I did, because I think he was basically, my doctor was saying like, choose one because you're going to have a lot of impact. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I chose skiing.
Fair enough. But yeah, I think that a lot of times people hear that too because someone's not in that position. Like your doctor doesn't ski, your doctor doesn't mountain bike, doesn't do whatever. And that's fine. They don't have to do it. But I think like my grandma's one of those people that like anytime I do anything, she's like, you could die, you could get injured, you could do all these things. And I'm like, yeah. And like there's risk in life. But I do think that at a certain point, a lot of these physicians say these things not because you physically couldn't do it again, but because they're like, this is a lot of risk post-injury if you're going to do this thing again. But that's where I think, depending on the injury, of course, that's where proper training for the demand of what you're doing really comes into play. Because like if you weren't doing that previously, it could potentially make a massive difference. Like if you say it's something like you blew your ACL and your doctor's like, you can't do it anymore. It's like, well, that's not true. You couldn't. It's not that you couldn't do it. He's saying maybe you shouldn't. But if you get back better than you were before, then why not? You know? So I think like that's where those things kind of come into play. And that's why I always promote getting a second opinion on things like that and talking to people like me, you, anyone else that's in the sport that has the knowledge of like physical well-being for the sport. I think if you're getting all of your advice from someone that's like never skied or snowboarded, that's where like the disconnect can happen more so, I think.
Totally. And I think it's important on that note is like not only get a coach and get a second opinion, but like also be super intuitive. That's what yoga's helped me with too, is like really like shutting out everything else and like tuning back in, like what is going on in my body, and like, will I, do you know what I mean? Do I want to, you know, like it's more of like self-inquiry. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah. Kind of on the thing of like, do I want to anymore? Obviously you don't compete anymore. You don't like go pro anymore. So what made you kind of say like, maybe this is it and I should pursue something else?
Yeah. That's a hard one too. 'Cause, Sochi 2014 was the first Olympic sport for ski slopestyle, and I was like on track for that. Blew my knee at Dew Tour 4 weeks before. That was really, really hard. And I remember like in my head, I was like, I'm not going to make it to another one, because 2018 would have been then 4 years later. Like I just knew that like, I'm going to try. But like, I was still like, I don't know, like my body felt great. I didn't like I had rehabbed every single injury. Mentally, I felt great, you know, like I felt like I could fucking do it. And the sport was amping up at that time. So I was like, okay, 2014 I missed. And then I was like, I'll go for 2018. And then I blew another knee 2015 and then another one 2016. And I was like, I fucking can't anymore. And it wasn't so much about the knees, because like I knew, I'm like, I'll put in the work, like I'll get my knees back, like my knees don't hurt, like my back is fine, everything's fine. It was more like after all the concussions, I've had more than 10, less than 20. Like I don't even know how many concussions I've had, because when I first started, wearing a helmet wasn't fucking cool. So like we didn't for a little bit. Again, guinea pigs, like trying to look steezy, like trying to like, you know, be the best out there. And you just are like willing to whack your noggin, you know? And if you look at all those old ski videos, like nobody's wearing a helmet, you know? And it was more, not as much about physical, like my physical body, because I knew I could get it back. If I needed a knee replacement, fuck it, I'll do it. But like, you can't get a new brain. And
Yeah.
I've lost one of my really good friends at the time. She was my, like, all of us ski girls hero. I don't know if the snowboard world really knows, but I'm sure the whole snow world as it is knows. Sarah Burke, she hit her head in the half pipe here in Park City, and she ended up passing from that. And it was one of those things where, like, I've had friends have hits to the head and they've never been the same. Like, something's a little off and they know it and everybody knows it. And I'm like, it's just not, it's like like you can't get it back. And I always wonder, like, can I not remember? Like, did I remember to email Kaylee about our podcast? Like, is that because, like, I have too much on my plate, or is that because, like, my head, like, what did I have
Yeah.
for breakfast this morning? So, like, I think it's really important for me, at least, to continue to learn, whether it's about skiing, whether it's about snowboarding, whether it's about sports science, or just anything that I'm interested in. I need to keep learning and keep my brain moving, because I always worry about, like, what damage did I do to my head? And I think that's a pretty scary thought, because you've seen the movie Concussion, like the CTE stuff. Like, who fucking knows, like, what some of us skiers have, and especially some of us that have been the very first. So that scared the hell out of me, was
Yeah.
like, just all the concussions. And I'm not willing to lose, like this is my life, really, so I think, like, hanging up the skis for that was like, I had to get real. Like, my body is so breaking down that, like, how many more knee surgeries do I want to have, and how many more times do I want to hit my head, even with a helmet,
Yeah.
So that's why it was super hard, was to retire when I still, because my dad always told me, like, school will always be there. You can finish off, like, anything else you want to do. Cause I was in aviation as well. And he was like, you could always get your pilot's license, all that stuff will always be there. Skiing has a shelf life, so do it while you can. And he always told, like, me and my brothers, just, like, living his life. He's like, make sure you do it until you don't love it anymore. Once it becomes work, once it becomes like you don't love it anymore, then stop doing it. Like, best advice to ever have and to live by for anything, right?
Literally.
And it's not like I hung up the skis because I didn't love it anymore. Like, I had to hang up the skis because I had to fucking get real. Like,
Yeah.
can I do this anymore? And I love it so much that it was like, it was heartbreaking. Like, I couldn't, some of my friends were still in it. I couldn't watch it. I, like, hung up the skis for, like, years, where I, like, could not ski because I was just so sad. I'm like, I'll never be able to do a rodeo. I'll never be able to do a switch 7. Like, I'll never be able to do these things besides, like, that's why visualizing helps, because I could, like, still, like, close my eyes now and, like, feel my body doing it, which is pretty cool, because I
Yeah.
still have that in me, but I'm like, I'll never be able to do that again. So that was the hardest part. And so I hung up the skis for a little bit. And in fact, this is the first year I've had a ski pass in 6 or 7 years since I retired. So
Wow.
I know. So I'm, like, so excited to get out on the snow with, like, my nephews and my dad and my husband. And I'm really excited to, like, be shredding again. And I
Yeah.
have, like, the last 7 years, I've probably skied like 10 times just through buddy passes and stuff. But it's been, like, it was hard on the heart for a long
Yeah.
time, because it, like,
Yeah.
skiing runs in my blood. Like, I just wasn't one of those with talent that did it, and then that was, like, the chapter. Like, no, this will always be a part of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally. Was it easier knowing that you could get into something kind of skiing adjacent, like trying to train people for skiing, getting them into something that you, like, love doing? Or is that, like, more of a new thing that you're starting?
like, the ski coaching, when I ski coached kids, that kind of, like, still trickled into, like, me skiing, and training them, like, because I trained some little kids and stuff like that, some, like, athletes upcoming, the little Groms. But I've been, like, such a selfish person, and I would say that comes with, like, athletics. Like, you have to be here. You can't be like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And I kind of wrote this post the other day about how it was just, like, I got into all of this training and coaching, and whether it's on snow or off and in the gym and whatever, it was such a selfish thing for me to get into it, only because I was like, I just want it for me. Like, I don't care about helping anybody else. Like, I didn't do this. I didn't do all of this studying and training and like school. Like, I didn't do these things to like help anybody else. It was for me, you know?
Yeah.
And then I started falling in love with like people's successes and people's wins and like, you know, just like the feeling, and maybe that's still a selfish thing. Like, I love when people are like, you've helped me so much. I'm like, oh, I did it. Like, I helped you. And maybe it is, maybe it's a selfish thing. Maybe that's why I don't want kids. 'Cause I'm just like so selfish. I'm like laser focused on my own shit, you know? I like my life the way it is.
I feel that.
But yeah, I think finally it's taken some time for me to fall in love with this. I think it was more of a transitional thing to like go from skiing to the real world. Like, okay, I could help me and also make money helping other people, you know?
Yeah.
But now I think I'm starting to fall in love with the whole process of like really being able to help people and seeing those wins for them.
Yeah.
But I think it started with like, and maybe it could still be like a selfish thing of me to, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I think like, you know, I keep saying selfish, but I think it's like athletes have to be that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes people good at what they do. Like you, I think you are so laser focused on, just like you were saying, like you just always want the next thing. You know what I mean? Whether it's for you or a client or somebody or like the masses,
Yeah.
you're always so focused on what's next. And I think when you love it like enough, you'll be able to reach the masses. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
when it helps you, it'll just help other people. So I'm glad I found something that I like. I do love. Nothing will ever compare. I mean, you know, the feeling you're a snowboarder, nothing will
Yeah.
ever compare of the feeling of like the love that you have for snowboarding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
But finding something that you can do that's kind of snowboard adjacent. Because, like, I don't know if you know this, I'm sure the people listening have heard me say this a million times, but by training, I'm an engineer. Went into biomedical engineering, and I got my first job out of college in that and was like, this is the worst decision I've ever made in my life. I was like, I hate this with a burning passion. And like prior to snowboarding, I competed in like English horseback riding. Like that was like my like love.
Whoa.
And so still to this day, the main things that I love in life are horseback riding and snowboarding. And I was like, great, these things are both like the most expensive sports you could possibly ever get into in your entire life. And I can't make money doing them because I'm never going to go pro in snowboarding. And if you know anything about horseback riding, you literally just win pretty ribbons. You don't win money. It's stupid. And so I was like, great, I need to figure out how I can actually like support expensive hobbies, but not hate my life. And so that's when I started like getting into this and seeing like, I need to find something that I actually love doing that like lights a fire under me that can help other people. Like, because I don't think that that's a selfish thing to like help. Like, obviously, inherently helping other people is not selfish, but yes, you do get kind of that like pride, and you're like, wow, it's like something I'm doing is actually working. And I don't think being selfish is a bad thing. Like, it kind of has that negative connotation, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I would probably consider myself pretty selfish too. And I think that just comes with people that are very like goal oriented, like you said, like whether it's in sports or not. Like if someone's a CEO of a company, I guarantee they're kind of selfish too. Like they're trying to reach the next level and reach the next level. And I think that that's a great quality. It's not necessarily something that's needed, but I do think that like it can be used for good. And I think that that's so important. And finding something that like you really love doing, and because you want something so bad that may not be like actually related to what you're doing, it kind of pushes you to get to that next level. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to do is like, okay, I don't want to be an engineer anymore. So like, how can I help other people do something that I love, that they love, that I can then support myself and support what I want to do and not have to do this thing that I hate anymore. And I think like that's just something that everyone should try to find in their life. Like some people might love working, and that's fantastic. I'm not one of those people.
Well, just like on the selfish, I always teach like my like yogi students, because I'm like, you have to help yourself before you can help anybody else, right? Pour from and you can't pour from an empty cup. But I think being selfish is like it does have that negative connotation, but I think it's also like self-preservation too, right? Like you have to you have to have that to keep like going for yourself too. And anyway, I just think like, yeah, as an athlete and now as like a trainer and a coach and somebody that like helps others, I think I had to have that to like go into what I've got now. And now I can really dial in other people. Cause I feel like I'm dialed in. Like I don't train anybody unless I've already gone to the gym myself. Like that's why I get up at 4 a.m. every day. I'm one of those, like, just because like, dude, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, damn, we've got 2 more hours. Like, I don't know how she wants to go, how long, but like, I gotta be in bed at 7 o'clock. No, but
No, you're funny. I'm the
got,
same way though. I want to be
yeah,
better about it. I want to get better at getting up early, but yeah,
yeah.
I agree. There's not enough hours in a day, and so you kind of
Mm-hmm.
have to be like this, and this if you're gonna do everything that you want to do.
Yeah, and I like to help other people. Again, maybe I just like have to preserve myself, is like I have to take care of me before I train or do anybody else. So like that's why I'm up early in the morning, you know? So it is important for me to continue that, but now, like I said, I used to hate the gym, but now I love it because I know what it is going to do for not just my physical body, but like how I can train other people and help other people. And I think the cool thing about our like the wellness world in general, you know, like fitness and I mean you could say anything under the wellness umbrella. Like I was saying, yoga has like different modalities, right? But
Yeah.
like breath work and recover, like all of these things, it's a constant learning. Like we have so much that we can take and like bring it into one to like help others with their recovery, with injuries, with like maybe it's not even physically, but with the mindset. So I think all of it is so important because we can constantly, I love that I love this now because I can constantly like keep learning about different things, different modalities, different styles of, you know, some people are like, don't do this, but I'm like, maybe it works for some people. And, you know, like diet is really important. Like just all of the things are super important, I think, as a whole. And if you're training athletes, whether it's training athletes or just the average Joe or the weekend warrior, you know, whatever it is, I think it's important to have all those things. And in our world, we can learn all of it, you know, and pick what's best for our clientele and us.
Yeah,
So
totally. Well, I know
yeah,
you and I could talk about this for forever, but
we need another one.
yeah, seriously. I do kind of want to close it out though on like if you could pick an overall highlight from your ski career, whether it's like in your fitness world now or in your actual skiing career, what would it be?
Shit.
I know I put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, you should have asked me this before our podcast. Well, I think it's pretty cool to have, I know it's kind of sounds silly, but the little award thing that we went to the other day was really cool to be acknowledged. As I mean, there's a million trainers and yoga teachers and instructors here. That was really cool because I really didn't know if I was on the right path. Like I was just doing this thing and like, am I doing the like, yeah, I'm making money from it, but like, am I making a difference? You know, like,
Yeah.
are people learning? So that was really cool to have people just acknowledge me, and I feel like validated and like, all right, like I think I'm cruising on the right path because the transition out of skiing was really hard and I just didn't know who I was without like the labels of skier.
Yeah.
And I'll use it when I need to because I've got it in my background, but I just like I didn't want to be labeled that as forever, you know?
Yeah.
Because I anyway, but I think the coolest thing was probably there were many awesome wins. I think like the highlight of my career was when I at Nine Queens, they pick like 9 girls around the world, and I got to, now they call it 9 nights, but there's so many different snowboarders and skiers, but it was just us ski girls at the time. It was in Austria, and I had tried a Switch 10 for a full year. I was just like trying, falling at every contest. And like finally like I tried it at Nine Queens, and a year later landed it at Nine Queens a year
Wow.
later. And so like that, like trying this thing for a year was like, it was really, really a hard one. And visualizing it and seeing myself land it over and over and over and just trying to get to that point just made me not many women in the world can say that they did that and they were one of the first. So that was really, a cool trick to land. And I remember that feeling of being with like all my best friends and landing that cool trick. But there's so many highlights. Like I've got to ski around the world. I've got to do so many cool things with so many different people. And even throughout all the injuries and all of that, like there's no way I would, my body, my aches and pains and whatever, but like there's no way I would ever change any of it, because I got to literally live my dream. And not many people get to say they got to, you know, ski for a living and travel the world. And I've made some of the best friendships and sisterhoods like ever. So yeah, I think just being able to ski in that Switch 10 was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so sick. I can't even imagine. Like I was trying a tame dog in camp every single day, could never actually land it. And so I'm just waiting for the day that I can like fully ride out of that. Like I got really close and it was just never fully there. So I can totally like understand the highlight of being like, I've tried this. I know I have it, and you just can't quite get it. And then like the day it clicks.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for that day for you too. You let me know when you do.
I'm sure I'll post about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I kind of want to just close out on that before we bore everyone half to death talking for forever. But I do want you to talk about like how people can find you, if they're local to Park City, if they want to work with you in person, drop your Instagram handles, and then also your athletics, like training stuff, all of your stuff that you're coming out with. People can check that out too. So go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so I own my own yoga and fitness studio out in Colville in Utah. It's called State of Mind Studio. You can Google that, State of Mind. I'm in Park City, all over at almost every gym and studio here, but I do mostly personal training and in-person clients. I also do ski training, so you just let me know. And my handles are just Ashley Battersby and Ashletics with the little dashes. I'm sure you'll put it in somewhere. But yeah, Ashletics is just my little brand now. And it's obviously my name. And that's it. Yeah, I always like to say I love your little logo. Now I'm looking at it and I'm like, damn, maybe I should switch mine, because I did have a sun on mine, but I'm like, oh, damn, I think I like copied her on accident.
I'm getting a new logo made right now.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I'm working like with an artist to create stickers and like eventually get into the world of like clothes and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, you are. Yeah, we'll make I was gonna say, well, with the little sun, I love it, because I feel like I say like I can teach everything under the sun except Pilates. I don't know that very well, but I'm all around Park City, so just Google Ashley Battersby, you'll find me. And also, when you're ready to make your first like clothes, dude, I've got you. We'll hand make your first, whatever you want here. Yeah.
So sick. Yeah, definitely everyone that's listening, go check out Ashley, especially if you're a skier. And she has some amazing content on there, just helping you with fitness, some cool exercises, mindset stuff. And thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. And it's just been really cool to kind of live vicariously through someone who's seen so much, been in the pro world, done all these crazy things. It's really just, there's no other word than it's just really cool.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm honored that you even wanted to have a skier from the dark side, or maybe you're the dark side. I don't know. But thank you so much for even the snowboarders, if you guys have made it this far to listen to a skier. So thank you for having me. I appreciate you. And I am so inspired by you. I can't wait to see what else you come up with.
That goes both ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.